Alright, and now, ladies and gentlemen, we get ready for the first sort of little more specific data visualization illustration. So we're talking about something very simple, just to be very concrete with data visualization. We'll talk about stuff about you have two variables that you want to understand, and also a little bit about histograms. So let's say you have two variables. We can give them some cute names. I like to call them, for example, x and y. We can plot them against each other and connect the dots. We call that a line plot. We can also plot what we call a scatter plot, or we just plot each value against each other. So if it's a nice smooth function, the line plot makes sense. If it's something where we don't really know what's going on, the scatter plot typically makes more sense, and we can use it to investigate stuff like how the two variables correlate. And we can look at them, and typically correlations have a very nice visual expression. A direct correlation, it looks more or less like a straight line with a positive slope. An inverse correlation is a little bit straight and then has a negative slope. If there's no correlation, it's just a big ball of dots. And we can also use these scatter plots sometimes to spot outliers. Just to give some examples here. Now let's talk about distributions. So one of the things I love, really love, is coffee. And here I've listed the coffee consumption per year for a bunch of countries. You see that, as we all know, the Finns love their coffee. They just drink it down. Kippis, they say when they say cheers. And Norwegians also love it. Icelandic people down in some coffee. And on a proud number 4, we got Denmark. Big coffee drinkers. And it's not fancy coffee. It's not lattes, although sometimes it's good. But it's just filter coffee. It's just good old filter coffee. Just dripping right down there and then sucking it down, drinking that coffee. And you can see the rest of the world. And so the most simple way of representing this is a bar chart. And you can sort of see, you can read off, the Finns drink more or less twice as much coffee as the Germans. But we all know that. But what if we have a lot of values? What if we want to put all the countries of the world, all the approximately 200 countries of the world? We can't begin to look at those in a bar chart. And what if we want to understand something about the trends? Which values are typical? It's hard to read off this bar chart. So what we can use is a histogram. We can define some bins, and we can count the number of values that we see in each bin. This lets us simplify the plot, so we don't have so much clutter, and we're extracting a different kind of information now. We're sort of getting a broader sense of how many countries are in each of these bins, these categories. And the binning, it sounds like it's boring, but it's usually very difficult. You can get in trouble with the bins, and so let's illustrate that. For example, the bins we just looked at were probably a little bit too big, and we can't see that if we look over the world, there's a lot of countries that are right there in the 1 to 2 kilograms of coffee per person. That's a remote, and then there is this kind of smooth distribution out with the Finns out there as pretty crazy, and we got a little bump of Nordic countries, and then we got a nice distribution of the rest. And we can also see that if we make the bins too small, as we have over here on the right, I would argue these bins are too small. All of a sudden, there's too much noise. It's hard to read off the patterns. Another way of doing bins is doing something called the kernel density estimation. So basically, instead of bins, you put a little distribution around each point, and then you put the point where it is, and you just add up the weight of the distributions. And it's just a fancy way of doing a histogram. And here, sort of the width of the little distribution that you put around each point is what sets the smoothness. It's very much like a histogram. Some people love it. Personally, I don't like kernel density plots too much, because they can make, if you make a lot of smoothing, they can make a little data seem like a lot of data. They're very easy to cheat with, and I don't like cheaters, as you also know. Finally, if you have distributions, it's also sometimes nice to do this cumulative distribution, where you basically just sort the data and add it up. And the primary virtue of this is that you can read off fractions very quickly. So if you want to say, well, what fraction of countries drink less than, let's say, 3.5 kilograms per year, you can go to 3.5 kilograms of coffee per person per year, and you can read off, and you can say that's about 50% of countries. If you want to say, well, how many drink up to 6 kilograms, you can see that actually 6 kilograms covers almost 90% of the countries. So CDFs are also good for answering certain types of questions, but actually, personally, I really like just the good old binned histogram, where you can see the typical values. Yeah, I'll actually, in the I can't do it here, but in the video I'll go back, I'll make a slide that just shows my favorite representation of this data set as a little video treat. Yeah, that's it. Couple of variables, histograms discussed. We'll talk much more about visualization in the coming weeks. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.